Hello children, and welcome to today's collective worship. I'm going to start, as always, by sharing my screen with you and by saying, which you should all know by now, this is the day that the Lord has made. And we should all be rejoicing and saying, welcome back to one another, which I'm sure you have already done. And today I've got some important things that I want to talk to you about, but most importantly, a huge welcome to each and every one of you, all the staff included as well, because I wanted to say I hope you've all had a lovely half term and a really nice break, and you're ready to get started for an exciting half term ahead of us. So if we start by thinking this half term, what we're going to be talking about, in green at the top, you can see our jigsaw theme is going to be talking about celebrating differences. And you'll find out more about this later in the week, because you're going to do a collective worship in your classes linked to this, thinking about each of us, why some of us may be different. Is that okay? Is it all right to be different? Accepting things about one another that perhaps some people don't in the world. So there's lots of thinking to do about Jigsaw this half term. We're also thinking about our Christian value in purple, as you can see, which is going to be trust. So if you think back to last half term, we were thinking about courage, weren't we? And this half term, we're thinking about trust. What does it mean to actually trust somebody and to have trust in them? So again, we'll share some stories to help us think about what that means. And in light blue, you can see that RRS stands for Rights Respecting School. And we're thinking about Article 12 this half term, which means that we in school like to think that you as children should have the right to say what you think should happen and be listened to. So all of you have a voice, and if you want to say something, you should be allowed to actually say and share what you think, and people should listen to that as well. And hopefully our school council are going to be doing some important work in school this half term, as they always do. And they'll be gathering your thoughts for things that I know Mr. Bishop's been thinking about as well. So that's going to be exciting. And then in red, you can see that the British value that we're thinking about this half term, because we think about one of those and something different every half term. And this half term, we're thinking about, what does mutual respect mean? And that goes back to really what Jigsaw's thinking about. What does, if we're thinking about differences in one another and we're thinking about showing respect, we need to think, actually, we have to be tolerant and understand that some people are different in this world. Some people have different faiths. Some people have different beliefs. Some people go to different churches, but that's all okay. We need to just understand a bit more about it. So we'll explore that as well. And I know that some grown-ups have been working really hard thinking about an interfaith week. So we'll be thinking about lots of different faiths, and that will be an exciting week that we've got ahead of us. So that's just some of what we're thinking about this half term. Now, if we move on to what Mrs. Robertson would like to say today, I've got a really important message just to remind you all about. Now, I know we've been thinking about how to stay safe in school for quite some time now, because we've been having to think about this due to something that is called COVID-19. Now, a lot of you, particularly the older children, will know what we mean by this. But some of the younger children might think, well, I've heard about it, but I'm not sure. So if we just remind ourselves that it is actually COVID-19, the name of a disease, which has caused lots of problems around the world. And it has spread and infected people when they didn't know that they had it. Now, you've probably heard your mums and dads and maybe older brothers and sisters having to go to the doctors to have what's called an injection or a vaccination. And that's to help everybody stay safe so they don't catch this disease. And younger children don't have to have the vaccination at the moment, but children at secondary school do. Now you can see a little yellow hand there. And this message that I wanted to give every single one of you today is that we've all got to work together. It's not just up to one person to sort this out, it's up to everybody. And we want to try and help people from getting poorly. So that means we all need to do something. Now you might look at those funny little green things on the screen and say, oh, what are those? This is part of what causes COVID-19. And germs can be found in lots of different places. And they are so small that sometimes we can't see them. And we might touch something that's got a germ on. And then if we touch our faces, the germs can sneak inside our bodies and could make us poorly. But because we can't see them, it's very difficult to detect them. So I wondered whether we could just remind ourselves about how these germs spread and what can we do to stop them spreading. Now, up in the top corner, you can see someone coughing. And when people cough, sometimes they forget to put their hand over their mouths. And sometimes, if people are having a really bad coughing fit, they may decide to put their whole elbow across. That really helps to stop spreading germs. Sometimes we can't help it if we're going to sneeze. And if we sneeze, again, we don't want to sneeze all over somebody or all over a table. Either put your hand up, if you've got time, go and get a tissue, or you can sneeze again into your arm. There's always a way of stopping spreading germs. Now, as soon as you've done that, as soon as you've coughed, as soon as you've sneezed, those germs might be there. So you need to go and wash your hands straight away. Now, on the picture here, you can see at the bottom of the page, there's a funny looking creature, or what I've actually decided to call this little thing is a germ buster. And this germ buster looks like a soap container. And it really is the answer to us making sure that we stop these germs from spreading. So every time we go to wash our hands, it's not good enough to just put your hands under the water. You must think about this germ buster and say, I remember I've got to press the germ buster, get some soap out and wash my hands. It is so important because it will really help to stop spreading germs. Now, we all tried lots of different things, didn't we? When we first started talking about COVID, I think we talked about a nursery rhyme that we could remember. And this actually is called the Super Soap Song. I thought maybe something different might help to maybe make us either sing it or say it, whichever we want to do. But the most important thing here is not about the singing element of it, it's what you're doing as you're saying it. Now, there's some pictures there to help us understand what we should be doing. And hopefully you all remember this, because I know grown-ups have told you again and again and again how to wash your hands. And so you can actually sing this to a very, very simple tune of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. So you could say, over, under, round and through, don't forget to add soap too. Clean, 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 and then you'll know Down the sink the germs will go, over, under, round and through. Don't forget to dry them too. Over, under, round and through. Don't forget to add soap too. Now, that's Mrs. Robertson, probably not making a great job of singing it, and I know that you could sing it a lot better than me. So you might like to practice that with the grown-up in your room, but most importantly, look at those words. Over, put your hands over one another so that you make sure you go in between your fingers. Then you make sure you go under, put the soap on your hands and make sure you go over and then under your hands. You go round, so put your fingers inside each other. Make sure you get that soap everywhere, in between your fingers and on your hands. And then you open up your fingers and make sure that the soap gets everywhere it possibly can on your hands. So remember those important words: over, under, round, and through. Now, if it does help, you can sing that verse to the tune of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, or just remember over, under, round, and through. Really important. And as you can see, the germ buster at the bottom there is saying, can you do these actions to help you remember how to wash your hands? So can you all in your classes now show the grown-up in your class what you do? So you put your fingers over one another. You then put them under. You then put them together so you can go round. And then you put them on top of each other so that you can go through them. Now, you might want to do that in a bit more detail in your classes, but please remember that important message. Now, when you do wash your hands, you have to remember that you must do it for 20 seconds. That, again, is really important. It washes all those horrible germs away and it stops us all getting very poorly. So please remember, it's got to be for 20 seconds. It's not just a quick, put your hands under the water and out, must be for 20 seconds. Now let's have a think. When do we actually wash our hands? It must be before you eat anything, because if you have touched a germ and you put your hand straight into your mouth, that's not going to get rid of it, is it? So you must wash your hands before you eat. You must wash your hands after you've been to the toilet. Really, really important, every single time. And it's not good enough just to put your hands under the water. You must use soap. Just as we said a minute ago, we must wash our hands after we cough or sneeze. We must also wash our hands when we've been out to play, because you might have touched something that somebody else has touched. They might have a really bad cold or a germ or something. You might catch it. So really, really important. And grown-ups are going to make sure that you do this, that you wash your hands after playtime and after lunchtime. Something else we did have to think about a lot when COVID-19 first started, which was going right back a couple of years. We had to think about this word, and some of you found this a little bit difficult to understand, but now I think you know what this means. And whilst we're not actually keeping in bubbles like we used to, we are still going to ask you not to be hugging one another and not to be playing games where you all put your arms around each other. We need to think about just keeping our distance at the moment. So please think about it when you're playing a game. Try and keep as far apart as you can from your friends. I know you find this difficult, but we do have to think about trying to keep a bit of distance between each other. And grown-ups know that it's always better, where possible, if you're doing things in a group, to try and do it outside. Sometimes you do some of your maths learning outside. Sometimes you do lots of other learning outside. But wherever it involves you having to touch lots of things, please make sure you keep your distance. You always wash your hands after you've been doing an activity. When we're talking about COVID-19, it might make people think, oh, I don't like that because I want to hug all my friends and I want to show them what they mean to me. But if you remember what we said, you can still do this. Do you remember? You can do a high five, but you can do it in the air. You can still say hi to somebody and do it in the air. You can wave at somebody, you can smile, you can do a thumbs up. You could also do an air hug, where you put your arms around yourself and show somebody that that's what you'd like to do. And while we're trying to stop the spread of this, Mrs. Robertson would really like you to think about these things, please. Remember this, that you can still have fun, you can still be with your friends without getting too close. Now, I've talked a lot about things that we have to think about, but none of us can do this on our own. We've all got to work together. And if we all do something, it will make a big difference. And we want to stop people from getting poorly, particularly elderly people, and particularly people who already are in hospital or unwell. So we all have to take responsibility, please. So it's very important that we all listen and do something. And that means remembering to always wash your hands and think about those safety measures we've talked about today. Now I'm going to finish our collective worship by just saying a prayer that helps us think about what we've all got to do, but asking God to help us too. So if we all put our hands together, close our eyes and just listen for a moment, or read it with me, we're going to say, Dear God, touch the people around me, keep them happy and safe, give them love, compassion and care, bless them all with good health, peace of mind and kindness in their heart. Amen. Just as Mrs. Robertson was saying that prayer, I noticed it said, touch the people around me. And what we mean by that is look after them. Don't actually touch, but God is looking and making sure that he touches them to keep them safe. And God looks down on us all, doesn't actually touch us. He watches over us. And we are asking him to help us to keep one another safe. Now, you've had Mrs. Robertson talking to you a lot about what we need to do to help to keep one another safe. I'm looking forward to seeing you all very, very soon. And we've got lots of exciting things to look forward to this half term, as I said at the beginning. I hope you have a really lovely day, and I will look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. Have a great half term, everybody, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Bye-bye.